Well, good morning and welcome back to Cityline. I'm talking with somebody who I just said to her, you get to play with animals for a living. And she was like, uh-huh. Please join me in welcoming the Deputy Director of Point Defiance Zoo and Aquarium, Ms. Sarah Oliver. Hello, my dear.
Hi.
Good to have you on the show. How come it's taken this long to get you on the comfy couch?
Well, I don't know, but I'm happy to be here.
We're going to have to make a habit of it. How's
Sounds
that?
great.
Absolutely. So we have 2 new polar bears at the zoo. How are they settling into their home?
They really are settling in nicely. You know, that's one of the things that you don't know till they get here.
Right.
And they've been here for a few weeks. And, you know, from the first time they came out and they looked at their exhibit, they've seemed really comfortable.
Oh.
They're curious, they're playing, they're napping, they're eating, doing all the things you want a young polar bear to do. So.
Oh, I love that. So Astra and Laerke were separated, the 2 polar bears, shortly after birth, and then they were reunited recently. Can you share the story of how that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're sisters, they're twins, they're born together, but unfortunately Laerke did have an injury shortly after she was born and needed to remove her from her mother to give her care. And so they got her nursed back to health and they were hand rearing her.
Look at these 2.
Oh, they're adorable, so playful.
Oh my God, their paws are huge.
They are. Grown polar bear, it's gonna be like a dinner plate size.
Oh my gosh. So I'm kind of gobsmacked right now by this footage. So how much do they weigh right now?
When they came to us a few weeks ago, Laerke was just about 300 pounds and Astra is coming up on 600 pounds. So I don't know that Astra will grow a whole lot more. She's getting close and we don't know what will happen with Laerke, but we'll see. She may remain petite or she may catch up.
So how do you tell them apart? Because they are twins, and do they have different personalities that reflect maybe the different sizes? Because one's 300, one's 600. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, you know, their caregivers can tell at a glance. I don't know at a glance unless they're both present, because then I can say, okay, the little one, I know that that's Laerke. But if they're out there separately, they do have different personalities. Astra is a little more bold, a little more confident. Laerke likes to hang back a little more. Laerke's more interested in people, which isn't surprising because she was hand raised. So she's a little more tuned in to the guests behind the glass and to her caregivers. She likes to watch the keepers at their work, make sure they're doing everything right. So yeah, they do have different personalities.
I love that. Give us a kind of a snapshot of how long has Point Defiance had polar bears? Because this is a very unique situation. Not all zoos have polar bears.
That's right. That's right. And about 80 years. I know. Now, we didn't have a polar bear in our exhibit for about the last year, and that's been kind of tough. We really missed having those really unique bears. At our zoo, and our guests really missed them as well. So we're so excited.
Oh, it was just great to have them back. So when you've mentioned that Astra and Laerke, they were raised differently. One was hand raised, one was not. And then you've mentioned how that changes what they look at and what they're interested in.
Absolutely.
And how is that for their caregivers? Does it make it easier, or does it make it something like, oh my gosh, I've got to get their attention?
That's funny. I think from what I've heard, it does make it different. I don't know that it makes it harder or easier, but definitely each animal, and I really, across the whole zoo, one of the things that is used a lot is positive training using positive reinforcements.
Right.
So we train animals for all kinds of behaviors that help us to care for them, and each animal is absolutely different, and there's relationship building that happens between the caregivers and each individual caregiver and the animals. So yeah, absolutely learning each one's individual needs and preferences, and then just on the day. You know, some days you're just not feeling it. And that's true for the animals too.
Exactly. I had a chance to, years ago, this is maybe 20 years, go behind the scenes and see the Siberian tiger.
Oh, wow.
Let me tell you, That, I mean, they are big, they are loud, it is the real McCoy.
Absolutely.
But it was also so spectacular. In addition to the 2 new polar bears, we have 2 walruses.
We do.
How are they doing?
They're doing great. You know, both the walruses and the polar bears, if we sort of were to equate where the developmental stage is, they're both kind of preteens. And that means there's lots of energy and lots of curiosity and lots of play and sometimes some naughtiness. So they're just really fun. We love them.
I love that. Where did the walruses come from?
The walruses came from an aquarium in Canada.
Oh, look, they're huge.
They are, yeah. They're really big. And they are, like you said, they're preteens, and they actually have quite a bit of growing left to do. So
oh, my goodness.
It's really fun to watch them get bigger and stronger and come into their own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So are they the only 2 that they know of, or are there other walruses?
I'm sorry, at the zoo? Just those 2.
Just those 2, so they know each other pretty well.
They do. They're half siblings, so they've been together their whole life.
So is that ideal? Is that what you look for? Like, for instance, we've got the 2 sisters in the polar bears, and now we've got half siblings in walruses. Does that make a difference in terms of how well they acclimate to the zoo and each other?
Probably. I mean, certainly we look for animals that enjoy being in each other's presence. It's really different. So in the wild, walruses do live in large social groups, whereas in the wild, polar bears tend to be solitary.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it depends, you know, just looking at how can we create a comfortable and an interesting environment for them in human care.
I love that. So we saw someone that was feeding the walruses, and I thought to myself, I wonder how much fish they go through in a day.
A lot.
A lot.
Buckets and buckets. Yeah, and they get it's like restaurant quality seafood. It's squid, it's capelin, it's clams. Clams and mussels are some of their favorite. It's amazing seafood. The quality of seafood they're getting, I wish I could get.
Well, that's because we love our animals.
That's right, we
do.
do.
That's right. We don't give them, you know, off the shelf food. Are you still doing close encounters with animals around the zoo?
We really are. And you know, summer's even more fun than the rest of the year because with that warm weather, that means there's more variety of animals that are going to be comfortable being outside. And so we'll have people, there's some designated areas for encounters. And then sometimes we just have people out around the zoo with maybe it's a burrowing owl or an interesting snake, a reptile, a turtle.
Yes.
We have all kinds of, you know, every once in a while the sloth gets to come out and meet people.
Oh, I would love to see
it's
the
amazing.
sloth.
Yeah, so we have the Wild Wonders Theater Show at noon and 3 where you can watch a show and then you can get up close and personal all around the zoo.
Well, that's
with
fabulous.
animals.
Oh, and speaking of the sloth,
yeah, there she is.
Ah, and here we often dress up when we're in the zoo, don't we?
We have an amazing show that is all written and produced and performed by our staff. And it is fantastic. It involves magic, there's a dragon, there's special effects, and amazing animals.
So is this part of the Magical Broomsticks, Potions, and Rats show that we get to watch?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So has that also been written by and stars in? Okay. So wait, you get to play with animals for a living, and then your staff gets to write wonderful plays and stories with props for kids.
Yeah.
Do you have any openings?
These are highly coveted positions,
I
but
bet they
absolutely, you know, we're always looking for great people to add to our team.
Absolutely. So when we think about what else zoo guests can look forward to this summer, what other programs do we have?
Well, we have a wonderful Bugs Alive program in our nature play garden, and that really allows young people to get up close and personal with bugs and creepy crawlies. Oh,
You mean, when you say up close and personal, do you mean like actually putting them on your hand?
sometimes.
Oh,
And sometimes just getting a good close view and learning all about the important roles those bugs play in our ecosystem. We have beautiful pollinator gardens. Once, you know, people ask me a lot, what's your favorite animal at the zoo?
Yeah.
And I always say it's the one I'm looking at right now. They're all so amazing. And every day I come back, I'm like, no, this is the most amazing animal at our zoo.
I know, this is my favorite.
Yeah, it really
exactly. So, and there's also aquarium things that we can do, which we've seen pictures of. And then let's talk about the groovy goats.
Groovy goats.
What are groovy goats?
Well, goats are just groovy.
Goats are groovy.
But we have opportunities to groom the goats, so you get to brush them and see how much they enjoy that. They love it. And then we do have goat feeding, or just sometimes their tummies get a little full because our guests like to feed them their special pellets. So sometimes you just get to come and talk to them and speak to them and give them some scratches. But they love it.
I love that because, I mean, goats, everybody seems to love goats.
Yeah, they're
goats
compelling.
are gentle, they're easy, there's nothing to be afraid of.
Absolutely.
It's just perfect. So for all of this, who do we need to thank?
Well, our staff are amazing, as I've said.
Yes.
And we have volunteers throughout the zoo. And so I appreciate you asking that because we can never thank them enough. We have horticulture volunteers who work on the beautiful plants at the zoo. We have youth volunteers who are working to support our camps, as well as working out interpreting all of these wonderful animals and plants and amazing facts, helping in Tidal Touchstone to make sure we're using gentle touch with the anemones. All of our volunteers. And then this year, our youth volunteers started on their own idea, let's do a story time for young kids. So I'm just so proud and appreciative of all the amazing things that our volunteers do.
So how do we get in on that story time in this last 30 seconds?
Check our website for schedules for all of these things. You can really plan your visit using the hours on the website, and then we post it around the zoo too in case you forget.
Boy, I mean, to me, I'm like, man, grab the kids in the neighborhood, look up the story time, and bookend it with seeing some of the fabulous animals.
Absolutely.
And then let's do lunch in the park.
Perfect.
I love that. You're like, I'm game. I love what you have shown us and what you have brought us today. And I have to tell you, Point Defiance Zoo Aquarium, the programming is so amazing year around. I mean, we have zoo lights that we get to think about. It's ongoing. So to say thank you to you and your team doesn't seem like enough, but thank you.
Thanks for letting us talk about it. We're so proud and we love sharing it with our community.
Well, I want you back sooner than later, okay?
Sounds great.
All right. We have much more to come on Cityline. In our next segment, we'll be talking with Tacoma Musical Playhouse as they interpret The Music Man. You don't want to miss that. We'll be right back.